So today I want to talk about Enneagram type 5. I'm talking about how they can go from seemingly being really happy to being really grumpy or really aggressive and pissed off very fast, very short period of time. So a lot of this happens because, well, to get them to come to some sort of a social event is pretty rare anyway. So for them to even come, often they will be in a pretty good mood because it'll take that high level mood just to get them to come. So they'll be trying to be positive, and they'll be there. And then something will happen and they'll quickly turn to fear and aggression and overreacting, all of which is a form of being overwhelmed. Like, that's what they're feeling. They're feeling overwhelmed, which I've gone into a lot as that being the emotion that characterizes them. Their core is fear, the type 5, but the emotion that characterizes them among the 3 fear types is they process the fear into being overwhelmed. And so they get overwhelmed, and often they overreact, and they move towards aggression. And part of that is because of the lines of connection, the Enneagram lines of connection. So the Enneagram lines of connection are really important, and they're not lines of positivity. And one is the line of positivity, one is the line of negativity. No, it's not like that. I've done videos talking about that. They're lines of connection. So every type is connected to 2 other types via these internal lines of connection, and the 5 is connected to the 7 and the 8. And so this movement from the happiness place, and it's a kind of an extreme caricature kind of happiness, over happiness, sort of maybe even a childish happiness, you could call it, or an immature sort of happiness, or a over happiness. Because the happiness itself, it's not like it's a positive thing. You could say that's them in their 7 state, actually. But like I said, it's not necessarily a positive thing. It's because it's like they're too happy, because they needed to get too happy in order to even come to a social event, because they're oscillating between these very extreme emotions, especially in terms of social interaction. So when they're in a social environment, they'll come in that over happy, which is them moving into the 7, which isn't a movement necessarily towards positivity. It's just a movement towards the positive aspects of the type 7, so that sort of happiness. And then they become overwhelmed by something that happens during the interaction, and they quickly turn sour and become aggressive, which is them moving towards the 8. And so, yeah, this is an example of the type 5 moving along the lines of connection, its lines of connection. So it moves towards the 7 or the 8 via lines of internal connection. And external connection is the actual circle of the Enneagram diagram. The internal connection are the lines that connect one type to 2 other types. Yeah, so they do this because often they are not adept at social interaction, and they overreact to something, and they don't really react appropriately because their aggressiveness is like too extreme for the situation. Or it might just be they take extreme offense. Normally there is aggression in it. but it might not just be pure aggression, it might be just, extreme offense. And usually it will lead eventually to sulkiness or something like that as well. I mean, they might move out of that again, right? Like, might move into the aggression from the happiness, and then maybe they'll move out because someone there pulls them out, a mollycoddle type of thing. I remember David Burke, he was an Enneagram teacher who talked about how the type 5 and the type 2 often had friendships because the 2 would mollycoddle the type 5. So the type 2 would sort of attune to the emotions of the type 5, and they would see that, okay, this person is now feeling overwhelmed, and sort of be like, there, and pull them out, that sort of situation. So yeah, it affects these different dynamics that the type 5 has, but those are situations where the type 5 might be around the type 2, for example, that is friends with them, maybe con them into the party, or it could be a totally different situation, right? They didn't have a type 2 friend here. Maybe someone else played the role of the type 2. There's certain type flexing. The things are going on. Like, these are more sort of individual situations, but to get back on track, the real point of this video is simply often you turn up and the type 5 comes and they seem really happy, and then at the drop of a hat, they're suddenly really sour and bitter and angry and aggressive, and that is a phenomenon that I've witnessed a lot. And a lot of it is because, they're overwhelmed, so they're not at depth to social interaction. Often they avoid social interaction, which is a vicious cycle. It can be a vicious cycle. So they don't socialize a lot, so they don't develop the skills and the nuance that they need in order to be adept at socializing. And consequently, because they don't have those skills, when they socialize, it goes badly. And then because it goes badly, they avoid it. And so they don't ever develop those skills. So that's the vicious cycle. So they can get into those vicious cycles. That's a big part of why they will often have this extreme reaction. And of course, just their pure emotional state is the part that they haven't learned to handle their own emotional state and their own emotional fluctuations well. And so often, they're operating from that place of feeling threatened. And, people will feel threatened in different ways. So a 3, if their image is threatened, if someone's trying to suggest that they're not as awesome as they think they are or something, or they're not as high a status as they think they are, the 3 might get really threatened. But the threaten that the 5 will feel will probably be more something along the lines of, their concept of the world has somehow been threatened. So you've said something that they don't think is right, whether that be it's not ethically right, or it's just factually incorrect, that might cause them to arc up. Arc up's an Australian term. It just means get real angry. So yeah, they will arc up over that sort of thing, that feeling of threatened. Their worldview is threatened in some way, which could simply be a fact that they thought was a fact is said not to be the case. That might be enough to arc them up. And so, importantly, they don't have these nuances of this new instability of, like, if you do feel threatened, how do you deal with it in that situation? This ability to realize, okay, these are a bunch of people who are just having a conversation. What they're saying doesn't really affect anything. I can research this later. To get really affected by this and overreact to whatever they're saying, how will that make me look? What's the point of that? They don't really have these sort of in-depth thought processes that allow them to just sort of handle with grace these situations. Yeah. And so they often see themselves in that situation. So they're often in this phenomenon where they suddenly become this aggressive person from being what seemed to be a person that was having fun, getting along with things and up for a good time, then all of a sudden they become really aggressive and threatened and offensive. Like defensive is probably a better word. Defensive. Yeah, and also, like, most people, when they react to this, they won't actually challenge the 5. I mean, sometimes they will, right? Because the 5 is suddenly being defensive and aggressive, and a lot of people do feel the need to challenge the person that's doing that, to defend themselves. You know, if you're being attacked by someone being defensive, suddenly you become defensive. But often it's so extreme what the 5 is doing, and it's come out of nowhere, that the other person doesn't feel that they need to react aggressively back, because a lot of times when people act aggressively back, they're doing it as a way of showing that they're not a pushover. They're doing it so that they don't look like a wimp. But they don't feel threatened in that sense. They don't feel like their status or ego or anything is threatened, because they can see that they feel like most people watching this will look at this 5 as just being totally ridiculous in their behavior, totally overreacting. And so they don't feel the need to have to combat this person's aggressiveness, this 5's aggressiveness. Rather, this person that's been, you know, that's on the other end of the aggressiveness will often have the response of, hey, whoa, back away from the crazy kind of thing. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, they'll just sort of back away, like, whoa, whoa, let's back away from the crazy person. They won't necessarily say that. Normally, definitely, they won't say that. But it'll be that reaction rather than taking them on. And so, yeah, the 5 will feel that energy a lot when they're behaving like that from other people. And they feel that energy anyway, in a sense. Like, they won't feel it as extremely, because they're feeling that extreme, whoa, let's back away from the crazy person. But as a reaction to their being aggressive, but they feel that energy of just people sort of pulling away, you know, a disconnection. They feel, in the sense that it's a disconnection, not being involved with people. They feel that energy a lot, and it sort of feels, it's related to that, right? Like, if you're just like, whoa, back away from the crazy person, you're backing away, you're not getting involved. And the 5 is often not involved anyway. So it often feels like it's not involved in whatever's happening socially. And so, you know, it sort of more pulls them into that energy in a way. Yeah, that's about it, really. It's January 2025, so stay tuned and we'll see what else we come up with the rest of 2025. Thank you.